Hey, what's up, everyone? Nick Underhill for NewOrleans.Football, and you're watching The Dot, presented by Matt Bowers Auto Group. Here with Mike Triplett for the weekly mailbag. And our first question this week is, what should they do at running back this offseason? Should they draft one? Should they sign one? Should they do nothing? What would you do if you were in Mickey Loomis's chair?
Well, I mean, draft would be the greatest hope, because then you've got a running back that you need and an eventual successor for Alvin Kamara. But you can never count on the draft, and they're going to need a running back so bad because Alvin Kamara's suspension is going to be next year. So I bet it's something they address in free agency. It might be a double dip. It might be a good enough guy in free agency and a high priority in the draft. The only problem is they have so many needs in the draft and so few draft picks, or at least not a first rounder, that I don't know that I can just lock it in and say I'm taking my running back in either the second, third, or fourth round. But that would be my ideal scenario.
Yeah, I quietly think it is one of the bigger needs. Not even quietly. It's kind of a loud need right now. But long-term wise, you mentioned the suspension, and then the year after that, Alvin's contract's a little bit untenable after next year. So I really do think you got to look down the road and decide what that picture is going to look like. And if you see next season as a season where things could be tough, I think the future at running back could possibly come a little bit quicker than anybody expects. It might be something that's kind of an immediate need depending on the approach with Alvin. Next question. Andy Dalton probably likely to start again this week. What do you think has to happen for Jameis Winston to get a chance to start at quarterback?
I think they need to. There's a couple ways he gets his job back, but I think as soon as they're mathematically out of the playoff race, you've got to take a look at Jameis. I think that's got to be a huge priority. So I think if they beat Tampa and they're only a half game out of first, I think they're going to keep riding with Dalton and assume he plays well. But if they lose to Tampa, then go into the bye and then come back with 4 games left to play and they're like 2 games out of it, at that point, you will probably need the spark that Jameis could provide, and B, you need to look at Jameis to decide, is he a part of this team's future or not?
Yeah, and our last question is actually, if he doesn't get back in, what happens? Is he in camp next year? I think if he doesn't get back in, he might be in camp next year, but I think it's very clear at that point that he's not your intended starter for next season. And I think that they would definitely have to do something to bring somebody in or look for somebody else. They might get stuck and he might be the starter, but I think their actions over the rest of the season is really going to tell us what they think about him if their actions haven't already spoken volumes.
If he doesn't get back on the field this year, I'd be shocked if there's a world where he's back on this team next year, because A, that shows they don't have a lot of faith in him if they never put him on the field this year, and B, I think the relationship would be probably beyond repair, and they'd probably both want to change the scenery.
Yeah, if they don't already want to change the scenery now as is. That's it for this week's mailbag. As always, thank you for supporting NewOrleans.Football.